Welcome to the Maximize Business Value podcast brought to you by Mastery Partners, where our mission is to equip business owners like you to maximize your business value and achieve the exit of your dreams, whatever that means to you. With insights gained from over 100 business transactions, we share real-world strategies, lessons, and expert advice to help you build long-term, sustainable value in your business. Each episode is hosted by one of our Mastery certified partners. They're seasoned experts who've helped countless business owners navigate the complexities of growth, scaling, and building value. They bring first-hand experience, actionable insights, and a passion for helping you build a business that thrives. So let's dive in.
Hi, this is Dave Casey, and welcome to Maximize Business Value, a podcast for business leaders that are serious about building long-term sustainable value in their business. As many of you know, I've been a certified partner with Mastery Partners for several years, working with Tom Bronson and the team. And and I work with business owners day to day, and we really help them maximize the value of their business in many different ways, always with an eye to the future, whatever that future might be. That could vary wildly, depending on the age of the business owner, the type of business it is, really what their ultimate goals are, and the health of the company itself. So today I wanted to share a little bit about my journey as a business owner and how I got in and out of business and how I actually found my way to Mastery Partners. So I co-founded and grew a IT services business for over 27 years. So it was quite a long run. We had a great time. We formed in the mid 80s. It was kind of a great time to be in the IT world. The IT was shifting very quickly from mainframe computer world to local area networks, wide area networks, and small desktop computing. So there's a lot of things going on in that space. At the same time, the telecommunications networks of the U.S. were essentially split up. So the AT&T had essentially a monopoly on data and voice communications, and when AT&T was split up into many other companies, that opened up a lot of opportunity for companies like ours. So we founded in the mid '80s, grew very quickly, and became a strong regional player. So that all that said, there's many things we didn't do right. Okay, um, so one of the things is we didn't have a real long-term plan. My business partner and I started the company. We decided that there's some great opportunity here. We felt like we could certainly do better than we could working for someone else. In a very short order, we found out that we never wanted to work for someone else again. We always were going to be entrepreneurs or be our own business owners. Um, we morphed the business several times over the years. That's more than 2 decades worth of time. A lot happens in the technology space in that period of time. So we changed from an equipment-based to a services-based company. We changed from a transactional model to a recurring revenue model. And we even changed from doing wide area network to local area network to IP telephony, messaging, video conferencing, stuff like we're here today on a Zoom call. So a lot happened over that period of time. I always had the advantage of a great team. We had a fantastic team of folks. Many of them stayed with us for more than 2 decades. Great economy because we were in Texas. Even when there were setbacks in the national economy, seems like Texas, with a couple of exceptions, sailed through really well. And then, of course, I had great support from my family. So as a business owner, it was wonderful, and it was a good thing. There was a couple of bumps in the road that we had along the way. But we'll get to those in a little bit. But one of the things is why did we do well? Okay, well, we had a good market, we had a good idea. I think we executed well as a company. But one of the things we did for really the entire run is we focused on people versus profit. Okay, we really focused on enabling people, even to the point where if somebody outgrew our company, we would help them find their next position. Or if someone wasn't going to quite cut it within our company, we'd help them find their next position. Because you never know, what goes around comes around, and certainly we always wanted to be in a scenario where people would give us high marks, that we were a great employer to work for. I mentioned the long time tenure. We had several people on both the sales and on the technical side, as well as even the administrative side, that were with us more than a decade, in some case 2 decades. That was pretty unheard of in the IT business. Lots of people move around the IT business, but we had a great folks. The other thing we never did is we never compromised our values. I think that's real important. And every business owner, I think, looks in the mirror and wants to say that, yeah, we may not have won that deal, or we may not have come out on top on that particular situation, but we didn't compromise our values. And I think that's really important. So I mentioned the good things. There's several things we did wrong along the ways. One of them, as I mentioned, was that long-term planning. We never really we plan essentially year to year, sometimes 2 years to 2 years, but never longer than that. In retrospect, that was probably not a good thing. We probably should have done a lot more long-range planning and actually invested in the tools to allow us to do that. The other thing we missed out on, I think, was the being aggressive sometimes when opportunities came along. There were some times particularly when we changed the course of the company, where we were out there in front a little bit. We were ahead of the curve and maybe ahead of our competitors. But I think as time went on, we got a little more conservative and a little less likely to take risk. And I think that hurt us in the long run, because I think we really could have grown the company significantly beyond the point it was when I sold the company. The other thing is, we didn't use enough outside professional help. We certainly had a great CPA, great attorney, that sort of thing, but we didn't use HR professionals. We didn't employ an HR professional, and we certainly didn't use outside HR folks. I think that was a mistake. We could have done a lot better doing that. The other thing was, as we got closer to selling the company, and I'll step back for a second and just tell a little bit the reason why we did sell the company, or why I sold the company. So I co-founded the company with a great friend, Jack Higgs. He's super, super individual. We were in business over 20 years together, and I lost Jack very well. We lost Jack very suddenly. He had a heart issue and became ill, went in the hospital, and never revived, and never came out of the hospital. So it was devastating. It was devastating to me personally. It was devastating to the company, certainly our clients, our suppliers, our vendors, and so on. But as I mentioned before, we had a very strong team. That team really carried the day, and we succeeded as a company, even with me taking over everything versus running half the half the operation, running the whole operation. We had some of our best years following that, and so we did make it through all that, which is sometimes that's that type of occurrence when we deal with clients, that can be very catastrophic and can really threaten the existence of the company. So again, I think some of the systems and processes we had in place really we did well by those. We also, as I mentioned, I can't overemphasize that the team of folks we had at our company was just tremendous, and really brought us through that. So I'd say to a business owner, make sure you surround yourself with top quality folks. You never know when you're going to need them, and actually ask them to do a lot more than expected, and get outside their comfort zone when something like that happens. It worked really, really well. The other thing that happened, and this is when we got a little bit closer to the exit, I put some things in place to reward some of the longtime tenured employees that we had. And in one respect, they were greatly appreciated. Some of the folks that I did that for seem very much less appreciative. And really, what I'm talking about is having them and participate somewhat in the financial rewards when we actually exited the company and sold the company. So I really did that for two reasons. One is to reward people that had been very loyal and stayed with us for a long time. I stayed on when we sold the company for an additional 4 years. So it wasn't like, Dave walked out the door. It was a very abrupt end. I stayed on for quite a long time. But the other side of that, which was interesting is I put kind of financial incentives in place for folks to stay, and they did, although some of them weren't a good fit for the new organization, and they probably stayed longer than they should have. So you never know when you put together something like that what the final outcome is going to be. Again, an experienced outside HR professional might have been able to steer me through that a little better than what we did there. So all in all, it was an interesting thing. That one of the things that we talk to business owners extensively about is what's next. When someone has a business and they're considering perhaps doing a transition, or where we're going to sell that business, or we're going to sell it either internally to, let's say, to employees, or it's going to pass down through a family, or it's going to go to a strategic outside buyer, or even a financial outside buyer. But there'll be a change in control of the company. I mean, it's usually a big event. It's very emotional in most cases. I've seen where it really can disrupt a family structure, and when a change of control happens like that, when a transition happens, or even when the best laid plans of we're gonna arrange so that the employees can buy this company from the owners, that doesn't always work out like you think it's going to work out. So I think there's several things that I've seen that really can help in that area. One is to do extensive planning ahead of time and make sure that the company is operating on all cylinders. Make sure that every aspect of the company has been examined, and that the proper, people, processes, and everything's in place in terms of how the company's operating, and that it's operating at top peak performance before any kind of transition takes place. This will do a couple things. It'll make the transition easier, but it'll also dramatically maximize the value that's received by that transaction. I've seen too many companies where for some whatever the circumstances, they had to exit before they wanted to. Things weren't in place. Maybe the proper people weren't in the right seats. Maybe the systems and controls weren't there. They ended up selling at a deep discount, and so it can really change the whole, your generational wealth can be affected by something like that. So it's very important that the company be operating well, just to derive maximum value. I think the other thing to look at in that is it's an emotional thing too. Many times, if you founded a company, you've grown the company, that's part of your persona. It's part of you, or you're part of it. You're tied very, very tightly to that company. And when that transition takes place, and now that company's in someone else's hands or another corporation's hands, then sometimes it's very psychologically difficult to say, okay, now what? Uh, you may even had a great financial result from that. You may have your bank account's full, but emotionally you're not full. You're just kind of wondering, what am I going to do now? I've seen lots of folks that face that, and it's on several levels. I think one of them is it's on a level of, let's say that you founded the company, you grew the company, it's been you. Most of the customers know you, associate you with the company. Suddenly you're gone, and what do you do the next morning? Right? You get up the next morning and say, okay, I don't have to go to work. In fact, I can't go to work. There's somebody else sitting in my chair where I used to be yesterday. So that's a hard transition for some folks. Personally, I did not have a hard time with that. Part of it was that I stayed on and worked with the combined entity. When I sold my company, we became part of a much larger company. I worked as a divisional vice president for that company for several years. So that when I ultimately did exit all the way out, it wasn't a big deal. I mean, we had done. I kind of planned for it almost a year in advance. And so it was a fairly, I would say, fairly graceful exit. Not to say that I still didn't think about what am I going to do the next morning, but that's when consulting comes along. So that's what I've done since then. But the interesting thing is that in many people's cases, though, it's an emotional wrenching experience when you leave a company. So I think it's important that to do planning ahead, plan for that moment. What's life going to look like on the other side, both financially, psychologically? What am I going to do with my day? I mean, am I going to play golf all day? Am I going to travel all over the place. Who knows? And you must include, I think, your family in those conversations, certainly your spouse and your kids, and just say, here's our next phase in life, and this is what this is going to look like. You may relocate to another part of the country or another country for that matter. And I've watched folks go through this, some very successful entrepreneurs that worked extremely hard, had a great transaction happen, a transition happen. Monetarily, they're set for life, but emotionally, they had a real hard time with it. And some of them go like off the rails. I know a fellow that left the country, moved to another country, got into some wild businesses in these other countries, and then finally came home to the U.S., got his mind kind of straight, started another company, and he's on his next go round of entrepreneurship. There's others that I think that handle it well. They really plan for it and say, okay, yeah, this is what I'm going to do. I've seen many friends and business associates that actually take that time, that next phase in life is a time to actually give back and work with others that are maybe turn around and put your hand out to the next entrepreneur behind you that eventually is going to leave their business and help them through that process. And that's exactly what we do at Mastery Partners. And I get a lot of satisfaction from that and the ability to help others and to talk frankly, since I've been through that process of what this means and how it's going to work for them. I think there's a couple of other things that come into play too. One is, um, when you're helping others, it's I think it's super important that you really put yourself back in that chair again. What's it going to look like as we go through this transition? The other thing is to bring in the right set of folks to help with all that, whether it's a financial planning, wealth management firm, whether it's the attorney that makes sure that that transaction works perfectly, that everything goes well, and even just I think maybe a business psychologist really to just sit down with you and say, okay, this is kind of you're going to be faced with. This is what your day will look like after you leave your company. So, what's that? Let's work through that. Let's see how that works out. And certainly, I think involve your family in that as well, and have your family part of the discussion. As to when you execute a transition or how you do it. On what terms does it happen? I think those are all important things. Um, One of the things we always ask on these Maximizing Business Value podcasts is what's the most important thing that you recommend that owners do to build the value in their business? And for me, it's quite obvious. I think one of the things that you must do as a business owner is you must make yourself totally expendable. You have to reduce owner dependence to where you are nice to have around, but you're not a need to have around. And if you can get to that point, it's incredible. The world is your oyster because any company that acquires you, they understand completely. You're not part of the equation. You've built this, you've managed it, but now it's running on its own. It has its own life, and that they can immediately say that there won't be any loss of value when you're not there that next morning. I think personally, it's good for your psyche as well. If you know that this team of folks that you built, this business that you built, is going to sail on just fine without you. It's a little bit melancholy sometimes, but the other side of that is you have full confidence that this transition is going to be good for everyone. It's going to be good for the folks that work at the company, the whole team. It's going to be good for the acquiring party, and certainly going to be good for you and your family. So to me, that's the big one important thing is to make yourself totally expendable and have it set. And you can tell whether you're that way or not. As you get closer to this, you should be able to feel like, hey, I could leave for a month and I wouldn't have a qualm. I won't need to check my email. I won't need to call in and see how things are going. I don't really know or care about, did we get the Jones account? Because really that doesn't matter that much. We've got so much business that we don't need that one account. Okay. The world doesn't swing around you. So to me, that would be the thing that as a business owner, that's kind of the ultimate is to make yourself totally expendable. So with that, I really want to close and hopefully that you got a little bit of information from me on this that, if you're a business owner and you've had your business for an extended period of time, there is a very graceful way that you can exit that business and ensure that it's best for you, it's best for your team, it's best for certainly for your customers and your suppliers and so on, so that it's just a good thing all around. And that's exactly what we work to achieve with Mastery Partners. We want a business owner to be able to exit their business eventually on their terms, their time frame, with a full heart, and just say, man, I've had a wonderful run, enjoyed it much. I'm ready for my next stage of life, whatever that might be. So with that, this is the Maximize Business Value podcast. We give practical advice to business owners to help them build long-term sustainable value in their business. Be sure to tune in each week to these podcasts, and you can subscribe to us on all the platforms so you won't miss a single episode. So with that, this is Dave Casey. See you next week.
Thanks for joining us for another episode of the Maximize Business Value podcast. I hope today's conversation sparked new ideas on how you can continue driving value in your business. But remember, it's not just about listening. It's about taking massive action. Visit our website, masterypartners.com, for more resources. Grab a copy of any of the books in the Maximize Business Value series on Amazon or via the links below. And don't hesitate to reach out if you want to know how to apply these concepts to your business. So until next time, I'm Tom Bronson, reminding you to relentlessly execute while you maximize business value.